live. Today we are going over the subject of pornography and what it does to your brain, what it does to adolescents' brains, about whenever you started. So we'll watch some videos, I'll tell some personal stories, and we'll see where it goes. I hope we get people joining today. Alright, our first one is teen porn. Why is it worse for your brain? With a Dr. Trish Lee. So, 7 minutes. Let's begin this one.
And implement it. It could possibly save your life. Okay, number one, teen porn. Why is it worse for you and your brain? Well, let's start with your brain. When you consume pornography in the first place, we know that it's what's called a supernormal stimulus. And what that means is it is jacking up your brain on all this high levels of dopamine. Dopamine is the pleasure-seeking neurotransmitter. So what it does is it makes you come back for more of what you are consuming to get this high level of dopamine. So when you watch teen porn is this perfect, I call it a friction point of anxiety and arousal. And so what it does is it really increases the dopamine level and the cortisol level. You're kind of stressed.
Yes, now with the dopamine, that's why if for teenagers it's bad because they'll want more and more of it. So that the more you do, the more you're going to do. Now, I started youngish, I think around 13. Was about when I started with it, and I was left alone, wasn't made to watched over or made any of that. So I mean, I got into it pretty bad. It's been good now for over since I've been with my wife.
It's almost 20 years.
20 years. But before that, it was really bad, and it's really affected me. I've had other issues with my mother and stuff too that have not helped. But the porn, I mean, I'm learning a lot about it now. Just the last 2 years, really, I've started to do a lot of research and try to solve my issues.
In those first couple of years that we were together, it was a subject of some very serious situations. And
it was.
That still resurfaces with me and my fear of these sorts of things and everything, just because of what happened before. But this is definitely making me understand more. The scientific part of it. See, they didn't teach you about the scientific part of it, nor the spiritual part.
No, they don't.
You shouldn't be engaging in such things, especially at such a young age.
Exactly with that. It's getting worse too because teens nowadays, they've got the cell phone. When I was younger, it was all computer, and so you had to be stationed in a room.
Which is seriously bad enough.
Yeah, it's bad enough because that's where you'd stay. But if you were there, that's where you had to be. So if you had to go out somewhere, you weren't going to be around it.
Yeah.
But now, these kids have the cell phones to where no matter where they are, there's usually internet service with the actual provider. So you have something to use to watch it, no matter where you are.
Everything is so interactive now too, and everything's so custom made for the consumer that it's they know their demographic, and it's you can pick and choose from a list of things that you want to see, and the stimulus has gone up so much with that
yes,
people are looking more and more at trans porn and stuff. And I guess back in our day it would have been gay porn or group settings and stuff like that, but now it's even this trans porn,
Yeah, it's different. It's people want to see what's different.
Yeah, they need more and more, just like any other kind of drug. You start off with a certain amount, and then you end up having to take 5 times that amount to get the same effect.
And that's why when you get into a real relationship and they start having sex or doing whatever, it's not the same because it's not what they see.
So it's not that, and they're still not getting the same kind of gratification that they did even from self-pleasure watching these things that are not realistic.
Yes, exactly.
They're shortchanging themselves on something that's incredible and unattainable by anything else other than a pure divine connection with somebody.
That's exactly right.
It's all part of the game.
It is. Right, let's see what the doctor has to say.
Out, but excited at the same time, and it gives your brain this rush. And what happens in the mix is oxytocin, the neurotransmitter that couples your brain. It's supposed to couple your brain to your sexual partner. Inadvertently, it's coupling your brain to teenagers.
Yes.
Now, if you are a teenager, that's one thing. But as you keep consuming pornography, and when I say one thing, I don't mean it's necessarily a good thing to couple your brain to a teenager on the screen. No. But, and I want to remind you that there's only 2 legal years of pornography in the teen years. And the reason I'm making this video is because we know from the statistics, teen porn is basically one of the top search types of porn. And so it's not just teenagers who are watching teenagers, and you're very much at risk for watching underage people on porn sites. And that's going to lead us to number 2. But let me finish the thought on you are coupling your brain to teenagers. So when you're a teen, that's one thing because that's age appropriate. But as you age and you keep consuming teenagers, that becomes a problem because that's not how aging works. So before high-speed internet pornography existed, you wouldn't be able to watch tons of teenagers performing sexual acts that do not happen in the real world with healthy women because healthy women don't want the stuff you see in teen porn. Neither do the teenagers that are performing it, honestly. But again, discussion for a different day. So you've coupled your brain to teenagers. So now you're 25, now you're 35, now you're 45, now you're 55, now you're 65, and your brain is coupled to teenagers.
Yeah.
That's a problem because if you have a partner and your partner goes from 25 to 35 to 45 to 55, you're no longer interested in your partner if you continue to couple your brain to the screen. So you have to come out of the screen so your brain can unwire that pattern of coupling to inappropriately aged partners. And if you don't, guess who suffers in the end? Yes, your partner, but you. Because we know from the science, you find your partner less attractive, you don't want to be with your partner, and now you're coupled to masturbation, sex by yourself, viewing very much younger people, which is just not appropriate. So porn has sucked you into that. It's hijacked your brain to keep watching children as you grow into adulthood. So I'm here to tell you, if you're watching teen porn, you really need to stop so that you can uncouple your brain, couple your brain to an age-appropriate partner in the world. And yes, that has a bandwidth. I'm not proclaiming that you can't be with younger people.
Do you think that could be why people are with younger people?
Probably.
I mean, you think about it, it's gotten a lot worse. There's been a lot more, younger women with older men. Now, could it be because of that? Because the porn is actually hijacking people to do that?
I think younger women being with older men is more of a security issue on the female's part. They're not so pleased with being with, they're not so secure with being somebody of their own age because they've experienced that they're not overly, they don't take care of them in the way. So I think it's more of a survival thing for women to date older men. But for men to seek out younger women, yeah, probably. It could be a big part of it. Also, I think a control thing. It's kind of it's easier to control them. And not necessarily in a bad way. It's just that those women haven't had the same kind of experiences and stuff that older women have, so they're just freer and easier. But definitely in terms of some people that I've known in the past, that are still in college at the age of 39.
Yeah.
I tend to think that has a big part to play in it, yeah. And
I mean, that's really interesting.
They don't mature past that point.
No, and that's really interesting to think, though. It's you just think the more pedophiles have been coming out, but what if people are just conditioned?
Right. Yeah.
Proclaiming that you need to establish real, healthy sexuality in the real world with a partner that feasibly could be your partner, not a partner who's younger than your own children. So think about it. I work with people, young and old, that become completely disgusted at the porn that they are consuming. of course they're aroused by it and it's exciting, but at the same time, they realize this is not cool. Now, number 2, I want to tell you what it does to you. It makes it so that you continue to seek pleasure through young people, sexual pleasure. It leads to the objectification of young women, teenagers in the world. So now you're standing in line at the grocery store and there's a 14-year-old in yoga pants and you can't take your eyes off of her. And actually, I posted a picture of me and my 11-year-old daughter, and I saw comments that I think YouTube took down because I went back in to respond, saying, what they thought the thumbnail title might be because of me and my 11-year-old. If you're sexualizing an 11-year-old, that can lead to you going to prison. If you don't believe me, put kitty porn in the news into your Google search every day. And you will see the number of people who are being busted for kitty porn who don't know that their IP address is being tracked.
No.
Because this
No,
is
because that
next
would do
level
just
stuff.
what she said.
So if you're watching young people in porn, it's time to stop. This isn't me, holy rolling. This is me telling you it's damaging your brain to the level that you've become.
You've never
What?
had a problem with being intimate with me in that way. And they
No.
say that it like desensitizes you, and if you've been at it that long, then it's interesting that, we have always been as intimate as we have.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think that comes down to spirituality. It's like, yeah, I'll fix that. You can be purified.
Third time this thing's done that.
You can be purified through sexual,
Yeah.
things as well, but it has to be done for the right reasons and with the right person. But it's interesting that she was talking about the mental emotional connections that you make, like your brain is tied to it. It's exactly what we say in spirituality. It's like you create a bond in a marriage with somebody that you're never even going to meet or know. You have no idea what kind of person that person is.
And that's what comes down to with the situationships that women get into, with everything that we talked about before, with with the whole Western women, is every person that those women connect with, every guy that they sleep with, they always are like, oh, my number count's 31. Oh, mine's whatever. Well, that's that many connections that they're always going to have.
Yeah, it'll never go away.
It'll never go away.
It's like I said, I've had to, basically, with your situation, you were only with one other person before, but even with that, it's basically there. She's like a spiritual sister wife to me. You know, and it's like she will always be there until the day that she dies. And
so imagine like 20 or 30.
No, I can't.
I mean, that's crazy. It's no wonder that people are getting divorces, though.
Cause see, that's not just the one person. That's everybody that person's been with too.
Yes.
So you have a soul connection now with multiple people that you've never even met. Like in your case, people that she was with, are now connected to you, and through you, it's connected to me, and it goes on that way. And you have to really, really harshly and strongly purify and maintain.
Yes, exactly.
Your sexual alchemy. It's
it really is, and it's insane.
But you're right. The divorce rate is so high. It's like nobody can be satisfied.
No. Between the porn, between the way that women and guys too. I mean, some guys sleep with a lot too.
They do, and they even encourage that. They're like, well, it's so easy just to have any woman that you want now. It's like, yeah, but you're connected to that person forever now. And I don't care if it was just bedroom fun or whatever, it's like your life is going to exponentially get way worse just even being with those kinds of women.
I mean, like we said, I had one other one.
Yeah.
And I wish I did not have that one.
Right. And it's a shame, it's like, it's very important to choose who you have any sort of sexual connection to, whether it's over the phone or the internet or in person,
Exactly. Alright, let's finish this one, and then I'm going to go to the longest one just to make sure that we
desensitized that you need to watch very young people, and it will show up in your world. Okay, so number 3, what to do instead. Instead, uncouple your brain from the screen. So you have to break that link, that oxytocin and that dopamine deluge that you get from the screen from watching young people, and instead get coupling your brain to your partner again. Think about the sex that you can have with your partner if you're not. I know that people will use the excuse that if my wife would have more sex with me, then I don't need to go into the screen, or I can't find a partner. If you put all the time and energy you put into watching teen porn into building a relationship with a real teenager, if you are a teenager, or two, coupling your brain back to your partner and talking to your partner about sex and saying, I really want to, steam things up here a little bit. What do you find enjoyable? This is what I like, and you have to make sure it's appropriate, not colored by porn. If you need to get a sex therapist to help you, do it. Life's too short to be masturbating to teen porn. You deserve more than that. And I want you to know it's coloring your view of teenagers in the world, and it can go south quickly. It can lead to legal problems. It can lead to big problems in your life. I do not want that for you. Time to come out of the screen, get on purpose in your life, in your work, especially with your honey, and in your hobbies, because you deserve it. All right, if you're looking for help in that journey, drtrishlee.com. I'd love to help. And until next time, control your brain, or it'll control you.
All right, there's that one, ladies and gentlemen. Let me find, I think I got one that's like, okay, there's a 12-minute one, a 13-minute one. Okay, so we'll go to the 13-minute, and then it's another doctor, and then we'll go to the 12-minute one.
Because it's super satiation. And it's a non-trivial technological problem. It's now possible for young men to look at more beautiful nude women in one day than any man has ever seen, prior to 10 years ago, 20 years ago, than any man in history had ever seen.
And then a guy doctor.
That's not nothing. That's something. And to think that doesn't do anything to you, it's like, no, that likely does something to you.
Oh yeah.
What would you say are things that men need to be focusing in on when it's trying to select a woman for a long-term marriage partner?
Well, you want someone honest. That's really, really important. Someone who will do her best to tell the truth. And my wife swore she'd do that before we got married, and she has. Probably better than I have. And so that's a rock, man, at the bottom of things, So and you can't underplay the role of sexual attraction. And that's a mysterious thing. And so that's crucial as far as I'm concerned, and can't be
so
just,
I have a real question about that, Jordan Peterson, Dr. Peterson. Pornography, and we do countless pieces of content to be able to help young men overcome that issue and provide tons of resources to help them support them. So what I've noticed that happens sometimes is because of years of watching pornography, the men's sexual attraction becomes warped. And so how can a man whose sexual attraction to women has become warped to the extreme ends due to so much consumption of pornography, how can that man go back to now being attracted to, more natural looking women, or more women that could be around their lives instead of the projected?
Well, deprivation is helpful.
Yeah.
So I think it's reasonable to assume that there's a novelty edge in pornography, like there is in so many quasi-addictive phenomena. And so it has to become, because novelty is a sexual kick, it has to stay novel, and that means that over time it's going to become more extreme. So that's not good. Well, so how do you resensitize yourself in some sense? Well, you stop. And then hopefully you recover. And then you deprive yourself of that outlet, let's say.
Yep.
And you might say, well, is that absolutely necessary? And maybe there's nothing wrong with pornography. It's like, well, I don't know, man. Like, have you...
See, and that's why, like, the monks, they, celibacy is what they choose.
Buddhist monks.
Yeah, the Buddhist monks.
And some Christian monks, I guess.
Yeah, and we were just talking about this earlier. And now they say that the semen retention can actually make you more powerful to stay, to help it to not do anything like that. And just become, do your meditation, do your prayers, and just focus.
Yeah, I've read about it and learned about this from many different cultures. You hear about it, Hinduism, Buddhism, and whatever Devante is talking about, like how you should, you should go a couple of weeks without, having sex with your partner, no matter what, from time to time, or even a month, and see where you stand after that. Because if your relationship's falling apart, then you know that it's only held together by that very shallow physical intimacy,
Yes.
and you won't, But yeah, it's kind of a universal thing now. It's like, okay, if you are constantly expending stuff from the root chakra, it's never going to be able to elevate and go higher up to your higher chakras to have you have like more critical thinking, more power, more compassion. It just keeps you trapped in the lust chakra. So
For sure.
yeah.
And I mean, we have a pretty, healthy appetite as far as it comes to that.
Yeah.
But we still have our times where we'll go, a decent chunk.
Well, we have to.
Yeah.
But it's like we have more intimacy, I think, like closeness without having to have sex all the time like that.
Yes.
But we're always cuddling and laying close together and nuzzling and playing around and stuff, and that's a really, really big part of sexuality. Just like everybody forgets about that, they only
For
think
sure.
of the actual act of it, and it's like that's not all of sexuality,
No, not at all. All right.
Ever really met a guy who is proud of that? Like, you know what I mean? That makes him feel like I'm the guy, man. I'm watching pornography and getting off. It's like, what a man. I don't believe anyone feels that. And to me, maybe I'm wrong. And to me, that's an indication that, yeah, we know. No, it's pretty cheap. It's cheap. It's easy. And, I say that knowing that I believe the research evidence shows that if you introduce pornography into a community, that rates of sexual crime committed by men upon women actually decline. So there is perhaps some utility in the outlet, but that's a unidimensional analysis and doesn't take into account all the other effects of pornography.
For sure.
So, including the ones you described, and I think that those are real. It makes sense that they're real, because it's super satiation, and it's a non-trivial technological problem. It's now possible for young men to look at more beautiful nude women in one day than any man has ever seen, prior to 10 years ago, 20 years ago, than any man in history had ever seen. That's not nothing. That's something. And to think that doesn't do anything to you, it's like, no, that likely does something to you. So don't substitute the false for the real. And don't underestimate the utility of deprivation.
Not deceive.
What do we need to drive us forward to have the adventure of our life? Well, some deprivation, that's for sure. That heightens desire and drive, and maybe you need that. You're afraid to approach a woman. Well, you remove part of your drive with pornography, and so now you don't have that sexual urge to overcome that anxiety, and so you stay timid for your entire life. Maybe not, but maybe.
So with 12 rules for life and also with Beyond Order, you've amassed so many amazing rules that
So this has apparently been a problem that's been going on for a good while because when I was I was obviously less than 3 years old, and my mother was living in Bodfish. Maybe I wasn't even born yet. I might not have even been born yet. Anyway, my mother was living in Bodfish, and my grandfather lived over in Kernville. And you remember the story I told you about how, he had to stop looking at dirty magazines, and my grandmother gave up her own daughter.
Yes.
So that he would stop looking at dirty magazines. I can't, this is a whole nother thing. But in any case, he was coming over to use the house when my mother was at work. Well, she came home from work one day, and she literally caught him in the middle of jacking off to watching some pornographic tapes in her fucking living room. And all he has to say was, would you get me a napkin, please? And then he gets all pissed off saying, what did you think I was doing over here or whatever? And he's like, she's like, I just thought you were just trying to get some quiet time away from mom. I didn't realize that this was going on. And he's like, well, you can't tell her. came up one day in the middle of an argument, and she let it slip, but my grandmother didn't catch it. But I mean, she thought that she was gonna die at that moment. His eyes got like enlarged. He clenched his fist. He was ready to pound her into the ground. So I'm like, if you were that serious about not letting your wife find out about it, then why do it at all? Why do you have? He always had that serious compulsion to do that kind of thing. Could not control it.
Well, and they talk about, too, that guys with head injuries are more susceptible to something like that because it's their more primal.
Right, because if you have an underdeveloped oblongata, the front part of the frontal lobe there, if it's like underdeveloped or it's been damaged, then it reverts back to primal aggression and sexuality. And so I always kind of maybe thought that was what was going on there.
It could very well be. And that's why a lot of football players, they get the head injury problems. They can't play anymore because of their aggression or... Obviously it wants this on, so I'm leaving this bright one on.
Can you see though?
Yeah, I can see okay.
Here, let me lower the thing. We got...
I don't know why it keeps putting that on, but...
Let me lower it a
we got a ghost putting something on me, so...
Seth is usually the one that messes with the lights.
Lights, I know. Alright, let's see what else.
You're talking about sexual things, so you know.
Yep.
I just think it's just so phenomenal. One of my favorites is Rule 4 and 12 Rules for Life. Don't compare yourself to others. Where others are today, compare yourself to who we were yesterday. And so, in your opinion, obviously, there's so many rules that are great, but what do you think is probably, if somebody was to read those books and there's one rule that you're like, this rule, out of the 24 I've given you over these past few years, you can absolutely not get this one wrong. Which rule would that be?
Tell the truth, or at least don't lie. Because you can't tell the truth, right? Because who are you to tell the truth? That's a mighty tall order, man. But you can stop saying things that you know are lies. And that will change your life if you do that. And it's crucial.
Why would it change their life?
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, honesty is very, very big, especially in a relationship, being an open book, both of you knowing everything about it, because if something comes out later, it's always going to be a bigger issue.
It will hurt so bad.
Yes.
If there's some sort of thing like an infidelity that you thought, okay, well, I could just sweep it under the rug, or if there's an addiction that you thought, oh, okay, I'll just sweep it under the rug, I guarantee it will come back around to nail you later on.
Oh yes, it will.
And people need to be open in those relationships too, not like an open relationship, but they need to be able to be willing to hear some of the gritty, uncomfortable things
about their partner. Yes.
Yeah, and let it like wash over them and let them and think of them as a person and as a child that had once lived and gone through things and gone through experiences. The other person has to be open to receive that. Because a lot of people don't share stuff in relationships because they're afraid of being judged.
Yeah, that's a very big issue, and that is why a lot of lying goes on, is that, they don't think the other one can handle it, and I've seen a lot of women that probably can't, a lot of guys that probably can't, but, it's a two-way street there. You have to be able to work both sides of the road. One has to be able to handle it, the other has to be able to handle it. It just has to work.
It's like I like to think that, you've always been there to handle my chaos, and, I'll scream and yell and I'll say the meanest things, and, that I'm just working through it and it's getting better, and you've always been there to kind of temper my temper, as you should as well, and to be open to receive what you have to say without having it be like a selfish thing and make it all about me. It's going to kind of sting sometimes, and it might make you uncomfortable, but you have to write it out, and you can't just shut down and say, no, you can't tell me these things.
No, you have to be willing to listen, for sure.
And you have to be willing to speak out.
Yeah.
Be like, you might not like what I have to say, but I'm gonna let you know exactly where I stand.
Exactly. No, I mean, both sides have to tell their feelings and mean it. If you're holding back anything like that, it's not gonna work. I mean, there's gonna be resentment.
It will corrode, and it's like, say if that
corroding.
if that was the case, then it's like, say if you kept a secret for 20 years, and you think that everything's been going great for 20 years, and then one day you find out about this horrible thing, this horrible past, or this, it's like, you're gonna question those 20 years. You're gonna think, okay, was it all a lie? Was it all just a cover up? It's like, get it out of the way early.
Yeah, definitely. The earlier, the better.
and heal. You know, it's like we handled most of our stuff within the first like 2 years of our relationship,
Yeah.
and then we had some hiccups and everything like in 2016. But that was already after what, 8 years of being
Yeah,
married.
I was gone for a year,
Yeah,
but that's the only time.
and then yeah, now it's like, you know, now it's just the aftershocks. I like to say that they're aftershocks. There's
Yes.
nothing new happening, and there's nothing that's unknown, but the way that you respond to things triggers the way that I respond to things.
Yes, and I'm working through some of my own issues,
Yeah,
but
and the more that we watch these kinds of videos, the more that it helps us understand,
for sure.
and I can help you understand the spiritual
Yes.
part of it.
And yes, spirituality for me has been the biggest thing. I've always known it, but ever since I started watching things, I started doing research, I mean, just opened my eyes, and this last year has been amazing, and amazing things have come.
Hopefully, I've shepherded you well enough.
Oh, you have. You're the one that's gotten me to watch things, to look at things, for sure. You know, your partner has to be able to help you. You have to be open with each other, and you have to be able to help each other.
Ladies, we are shepherds. We are meant to shepherd our families on the path of righteousness, no matter the cost. Men, you lead us down the path. We just keep everybody on that path. You know?
Yes.
Well, how can you adapt to reality when you falsify it? And you think, well, I'm just lying to other people. No, you're not. You can't just lie to other people, because what you say becomes you, especially if you practice it. Because we build ourselves out of work.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, lies are one of the worst things. Lies lead to other lies, which lead to other lies, which lead to you not knowing what you're covering up anymore or what you're doing. It is not worth it.
Our biggest, bloodiest, brutalist fights have been over lies.
Lies.
You know, over some of the stupidest things. Once
Yeah.
you start lying, you lie over the stupidest things. Like, you know, did you do the dishes this morning? Yeah, I did the dishes. And
There's still a pile of
there's
dishes.
still a pile of dishes, you know.
Yes.
It's like, why would you even say that then? Well, I don't know. You know, it's like, that's always been the source of it. So it's like, as long as there is truth,
There is ways to fix it.
yeah, there's light and there's hope and you're good, you know. But you know, people do lie nowadays, like all the time. I mean, you know.
Well, and for one thing, you know, it's hard to say
No
because
accountability.
for one thing, you have people watching their own governments, their own superiors, and all of them are lying. They all lie to everybody. I mean,
Oh yeah, no, there's no Area 51. There's never
Yeah.
been an Area 51. Oh yeah, by the way, there's always been an Area 51.
So-
Oh no, we don't track UFOs. We've never tracked UFOs. Oh, by the way, here's some UFO footage that we tracked like 20 years ago. We've been tracking it.
all along.
Yeah.
Yep.
But no, they don't lie.
I mean, it's crazy.
So yeah, I guess you're right. They take by example of the people around them, and everybody just lies to cover their own ass.
It's a very rarity to find that one that doesn't lie.
Yeah.
It really is.
And then when you find one like that, they're not well received by anybody else.
No, they're not by far.
And that can be lies in action too. It's like, don't say things you know to be false. That's a good start, man. And it aligns yourself with the truth. And that, like, how can that be a bad idea? Imagine that what is true reflects reality, which is sort of the definition of true. How can failing to align yourself with reality work? How is that possibly going to work? Well, you say, well, I can, you know, if I lie, I get away with something. It's like, no, you don't. I tell you, I swear this is true. In all of my clinical practice, I have
This
never,
is a pretty good
ever
doctor.
seen anyone ever get away with anything,
Jordan
even once.
Peterson.
Yeah.
You think the chickens won't come home to roost. It's like, all that means is you're too stupid to see
This guy,
what
his
your
channel
lies
is the
cause,
realest,
or
this
too
black
blind or too self-deceptive. You just don't see it. And so
He's been pretty
you
good
don't
at
get away with
questioning.
anything. Nothing. It's terrifying to actually understand that. It's terrifying. What if you can't get away with anything, ever? You know? Well, that's the judgmental God, fundamentally. That's a very old idea, and it's an old idea for a reason. And of course you can't get away with anything, because
Lie to
imagine that you
yourself,
took
lie to me,
Yep.
and lie to
flexible
spirits.
plastic comb, and you bent it backwards, and you say, well, I got away with that.
Yes, what Dr. Button just said is one of the biggest things that she said. You can always lie to yourself, you can lie to your spouse, but you can never lie to the spirits. The spirits know all and see all. And if they want somebody to know something, they're gonna make sure that they know it, no matter how good you've kept a secret. Something will slip up.
It's like the funniest thing, like when you try to like hide something from me and the dog pulls it out of your bag,
Yeah.
and it's like, what does she have there? There it is, your phone goes to something that you never would have thought about. I mean, they will find a way.
Yeah.
They will find a way to bring it to light, and it's so much worse.
It is, for sure. Because then you have to admit to the lying too, not just what this was.
Right. Yeah, that's the hardest part, honey.
It's like, well, what's going to happen when you let go? It's going to snap back and hit you in the face, and that's life, man. You warp the structure of reality? You think you are someone who can warp the structure of reality with your words and get away with it? Really? No, man, that should terrify you right to the core of your soul. You're not God. You can't do that.
Dr. Peterson, you said that you've never seen someone get away with lying. What do you mean by that? Because I can imagine there's somebody listening to this right now who
Ladies
said,
and gentlemen, this one is just talking now about lying and stuff like that. It's off the subject of what we are.
I'm really interested in seeing some of those. They look like that, like an animated.
Yeah.
Thumbnail.
I've got the brain scan one. It's another 12 minutes, and then we'll see about some of the animated and stuff.
Yeah, because I think that would bring it into an easier.
Yes. But this one's a 12-minute one. And this is supposed to be more scientific on the brain and what it does. And that's kind of what we were getting into, so. Yeah. The porn pandemic, it's called. Just getting effects on children, family.
My first exposure to pornography was around age 8. I was probably 8 or 9 years old, and I stumbled upon some pictures of pornography.
So my first experience with pornography was at my cousin's house, and it was on this gaming device with internet connection, and I don't think his parents even knew that it had internet connection.
And a lot of times I'd hide them under my bed or in my dresser, that sort of thing, and I'd flip back to them. I felt naturally drawn to them.
A lot of the times.
Yes, you notice the two of them were talking about seeing pictures. That is when there was actually the magazines, and it was a little harder and a little, less convenient. Now it just gets worse because, like I said, then they came to the computer. Okay, so you were stuck to a room. And now it's gone to cell phones, which is everywhere. And that's where all these kids are getting such big problems. I mean, you're looking at these other two that started at 8 years old.
Insane.
Imagine an 8-year-old that has a cell phone and is looking at stuff. I mean, some of them you would never get to stop.
That's insane. Because I mean,
Yeah.
it's like even the cell phone itself and the way that you receive media like that it's already like sugar to your brain.
Yeah, it is.
So it's already doing that, and then you couple it on top of, the pornography, which is ultra stimulating.
Yes,
already.
it is.
Like, he has classmates that do this stuff in class. They look at it in class.
Some of my son's friends have been caught in class looking at stuff.
13 years old.
13 years old.
It's like, wow.
I mean, it's insane what's going on now.
Wow.
My family would be gone, and I'd be at home alone, and that wouldn't be like when I would view it. Like while you're looking at it, I suppose it's like it's thrilling, like it's it's awesome while you're in it, but then afterwards it's just I guess this feeling of like disgust and shame and like why did I just do that? Feeling pretty sneaky about it, feeling got away with it.
It is a drug.
Pornography is a drug which produces an addictive neurochemical trap. It is a pheromone. It changes the set point, the pleasure set point of the brain, and creates a new normal through the process of neuroplasticity, or change in the way our brain perceives and values pleasure.
So one transmitter is dopamine, and that's centered part of our pleasure and reward system of our part of our brain. And dopamine's released in it whenever there is a sexual experience and something that gives us a kind of a high in order for us to want to continue to seek out that same activity.
Have anything bad happen to me, that would be my quick fix. And, give me that dopamine rush, make me happy again, or at least numb the pain.
It is as destructive, if not more so, than other even hard drugs.
In your experience, was that like your experience? Like if you're having a bad day or something like
or even
happen?
just to get a boost. Just if you wanted that extra, it'll pick me up.
Yeah, you've always been the opposite. Most people get tired afterwards.
No.
But
just, I need to feel that, but then it's like you want more.
Right.
So it gets bad.
I knew something was up because I once said, like, when we had our pillow talk, I had said, you better not be some sort of, like, a sex addict or something. And you got real quiet, and it's like you do that when you're, like, on the spot. And it's like that always kind of stuck with me. And so I'm assuming that's, like, what
I never had sex.
Yeah, but it's the same thing. It's, not the same thing. It's not as risky and it's not as invasive, but... you still are making those connections.
You are, for sure.
So it's like, so it doesn't matter if you're having a bad day or a good day.
Yeah.
Something would happen or nothing would happen.
Exactly.
Fucking addiction.
Just like, a drug addict that is out there. It's like, oh, well, I'm having a bad day anyway. Or, oh, my day's good and I'm going to keep it going.
Yeah, a little pick-me-up, little boost. Just like say, why don't we just keep building this train up,
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah, it's definitely an addiction. Yeah.
For sure.
I had periods of time where I just gritted my teeth and white-knuckled through it, but inevitably, I always fell back into it.
As we're engaging in those behaviors, oxytocin and vasopressin is released that bonds us to those activities. So we educate our clients about the neurological pathways, because this isn't just about their willpower or them being weak and not being strong enough. It's about the things that are going on in their brain.
So where they may have started off with some very basic pornographic images, it has a tendency to escalate, going to massage parlors, going to escorts, seeking prostitutes, looking to hook up with anonymous individuals online.
Progression from nudity to hardcore sexual acts, bestiality, sadomasochism, child porn. What the brain is really searching for is something new. Novelty, change.
Yeah.
Pornography capitalizes on that.
It can extend to various things. Not everybody falls into all those categories, but each one of them falls into some category where it continues to escalate. Very rarely have I seen somebody who started with pornography and it just stayed basic pornography.
So for me, I started out with just pictures, and that was it. That did it for me. And then it got progressively worse. It got stories, videos, intense videos, long videos, and there didn't seem to be an end.
Got to the point where I was doing it a lot. It became where I wanted to try it out. Like I wanted to see how it felt on a person.
I went through the days, but I wasn't living. I looked at pornography every day, self-medicate.
I viewed pornography so much, and it was such a big problem that I escalated, and I sexually abused my own sister.
I hated myself.
Wow.
Hated God, hated everybody. Why me? Why, as a child, for crying out loud? I still remember those images of what I saw as an 8-year-old child. I can't remember what I did last week, but these things, they just stuck with me.
The children in the capacity to make informed long-term decisions about that. Again, we're
pleasure standard, so to speak, a new bar in which you compare everything else to. You and I need to sit down and actually talk about sexual alchemy at some point, because you never had a problem with me even then. I mean, it was like, and it ended up being, it felt so natural, so normal. It was like, there was nothing weird between us, like, ever.
No, yeah, we need to do like a live stream.
Yeah. Actually, just like, I don't know, there's something to it. See, I was pure, I was virgin, and I had my standards in order, and I was a woman of value. Yep. And I do with all my heart believe that, we amplify and you're supposed to reprogram, but see, we can purify you. It's like we have the right divine vessel has the ability to purify and reset.
And you definitely have.
Because that was really strange, because I hear more of the opposite of couples that are together. They have intimacy issues.
But a lot of them too both have had issues.
Right.
So coming together with both issues will cause more of an issue also.
It's true. It's true. But yeah, see, but that's just it. Having purity. You know, something that I could end up teaching in one of my more advanced classes is, you know, this is like the power that you have when you like create a divine union.
For sure, definitely.
It's interesting.
Learning much more about the brain. Children's brains are very uniquely unadapted to that.
Remember, their frontal lobes aren't formed, and they're going to be able to process that and understand all the nuances and implications of the behavior later. It's ridiculous.
And an attempt to provide it for adults has fallen into the hands of children and adolescents in a way that is seriously destructive to their own emotional and sexual development.
The darkest moment in my life was when I was put in the holding cell, and I was cuffed, and I was shackled. I couldn't move. I didn't know what was going to happen to me, and I didn't know if I'd ever see my family again.
He looks young too.
That's what I mean. I know, it's like, that's crazy that
14-year-old boy goes on his phone.
But it says
text, sexts.
Okay, there's differences because it says child sex offender. But I mean, he could have been 18 and the girl could have been 17.
Right.
16.
This is the one that assaulted his own sister.
Oh, that's right, his own sister.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely relationships. It's like, I don't believe that. It's like, I believe you could have, like, I mean, shit, Kimberly was 5 years younger than Chris. He had already been graduated way before she was. And they were always together. That was her first, and as far as I know, they're still together. I don't know how happy of a union it is, but I mean, they were at least committed.
For sure.
You know, I think he kissed another girl supposedly at one point or another, but you know, it was like, the age difference wasn't the problem.
No.
You know, it was like, I don't really have a problem with that. It's just depends on the maturity level of each person.
Yes.
And yeah, I mean, I've seen people get put onto these lists and stuff, and I think it's really unjust sometimes, you know.
Well, yeah, it's because of our system, you know.
They'll protect the freaks.
Yeah.
You know.
For sure. All right, let's try. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to try to get through these. If I still have some left at the end of this, I was thinking that I'll probably go ahead then and do another Saturday one next Saturday. And continue this, maybe add like one more longer one so that we have enough. But I mean, this is a subject that's worth talking about and worth getting out there for more people to hear that they're not alone. I mean, this happens.
And there is hope on the other side of it. You can have a functional, like, loving relationship. It just has to be based in honesty.
For sure.
And it has to be, you know, pure intentions behind it.
Yeah.
It's like, women are supposed to inspire, you know, inspire and shepherd, you know.
Girls. His language was so obscene, so vulgar, calling them names that are inappropriate. Where did he get the ideation that this is all they are good for? It was pornography.
All these people that I was looking at, I was making them seem, you know, like sexual objects rather than people. And the feelings I was feeling, I didn't feel any remorse. I didn't feel any compassion. I didn't care about anybody else besides myself, and that made me just act out on my sister, and just made me. I mean, I didn't care about her feelings. I just cared about my own.
So also, the Bridge study showed of the top 250 porn titles, 90% of them depict violence against women, as defined by slapping, hitting, hair pulling, gagging, choking, and name calling.
The more violence and abuse that is depicted in pornography has a greater sell value on the internet. Pornographers know this and they push this.
Do the men that watch that just decide, hey, I can watch this, but it's all fantasy. It's not real. It is real. The women are actually experiencing what's on the screen.
I'm a victim of pornography. I would spend the night at a friend's house when I was between 7 and 9 years old, and her father would drug us and then molest us, take photos.
So you need to understand that this is someone's mother. This is someone's daughter. This is someone's sister. And you wouldn't want your mother or daughter or sister to be viewed in that way.
It's incredibly painful to think that those traumas, that pain, that those parts of me are out there. I don't know where they are. I don't know who looks at them. What if there are people I know in my life right now who are viewing child pornography and they're looking at me?
I never would think that. You know,
it's
just crazy.
It's gut-wrenching. It's nauseating.
I mean, that is crazy, and I can't imagine going through that.
We know, for instance, from the Halt meta-analysis, which did look at multiple studies and did conclude that, yes, men who view pornography are more accepting of the rape myth, that women enjoy rape and want it.
Today, violence against women is on the increase. Rape is on the increase. In the UK, the government has identified a substantial number of child-on-child victims who were harmed because of the pornography consumption of the perpetrator.
It's bullcrap. It doesn't affect anyone else. Yes, it does. If it weren't for him starting on pornography when he was a young man, regular, just looking at naked women in a magazine.
It was like the episode of Flight of the Conchords. Do you remember the one with Brett where he met this girl and she kept pressuring him into that? And like I felt like watching that was like watching a rape scene, because he's just laying there, he's dead in his eyes, and she's like writing him in all these positions. Because you use that coercion method of, oh, well, you know, it's like if we don't do something, you know, it's going to hurt me physically, and you have no idea what that, I might not ever be able to have a baby again, you know. Oh, and then she finally resulted to, well, I'm being shipped out to another country, and so this is my last chance. And so it was like, that is no freaking better. No. And it's like, I know a lot of like girls in high school and stuff that were always doing stuff like that. Yeah. And it's like, that is rape, man.
It fully is,
you know? God.
I mean, guys can have it too. And I mean, people can say, oh, they're weak. Oh, they're this or that. Well, in some cases,
doesn't matter. No. You know, it doesn't matter if they're weak, even physically or mentally.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's worse, you know? Oh my gosh. Yep.
I would have never been through that.
I was only a kid when I viewed pornography. I was 9 or 10. I was little. How can things be accessible to little ones of that age when guns are locked up until you're 21? You can't access those. You can't access anything. But pornography, one of the most life-damaging things, is accessible so young.
I have had cases where the pornography addiction in a man progressed to the point where he violently raped his own daughter.
Most of the individuals that I work with, their desire and appetite for being somebody like a prostitute had its origins in their exposure to pornography.
And you have no way of knowing that man or that woman on the screen is not traumatized by what they did so that you could watch it. There is no get over this.
Yes, I mean,
there's no get over this.
The other side of this.
He was working with a pimp who had been imprisoned. And he said, if I see a girl who's alone, I go up to her and I say, hey, you've got beautiful eyes. He said, if she looks at me and says, thank you, I let her go on because I know that she's not vulnerable. But if she looks down at her shoes and says, no, I don't have pretty eyes, he says, I know I've got her.
It's impossible to be searching out adult pornography on the internet without finding child pornography. And people will say, oh no, I never look at child pornography. And I say, oh really? You mean you've never seen a woman who's...
Well, I mean, just look at the way that the teenagers are dressing now, when you would swear that they were 18, and they're only like 15.
14.
14.
Yeah, I mean it's
crazy the way that women are being now.
He said our own, like, friends' daughters are dressing, like, I mean, insane. I mean, no way in a million years would I have been allowed, even with my kind of upbringing, to wear something the way that these kids are fucking wearing. And it's like they're like 14 years old. Yeah. And, you know, they're going to middle school dances dressed like that.
I know.
You know, and it's like, I don't want to be the kind of person that's blaming the girls for how they dress. You know, guys should know how to control themselves, that sort of thing. But it's like, why do you have to do that? It's like...
Yeah, there's no reason.
I mean,
I mean, that's what's causing a lot of these situations where these women are getting
triggered,
getting into prostitution and stuff. I mean,
Uh-huh.
what else would you think?
And OnlyFans.
Yeah,
You know, OnlyFans
is taking over.
Is prostitution. It's just digital new age prostitution. And they're like, oh, it's just on the internet. Well, been there and done that. But the OnlyFans take it a step further because a lot of them do meet with their people. I've seen plenty of pictures and incidents where it's like, oh, I met this guy and he was my OnlyFans, you know, my biggest like OnlyFans fan, and you know, he paid me $10,000 just so he could like touch my butt or whatever. And it's like, you're gonna end up dead.
Yes.
And you have sold your soul and you will never ever be satisfied. You will never have the money you think that you do. $8,000?
I know.
$8,000 a month.
For what though?
Right.
Like you said, all those connections are gonna stay.
Yeah.
I mean,
everybody.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, you know.
Energy, everything.
God.
17 and a half years of age? What about a 16-year-old, a 14-year-old?
I was speaking in Arizona a few years ago, and a prosecutor was there who prosecuted obscenity and sex crimes there in Arizona. And he called adult pornography the gateway drug for child porn.
The fact that as soon as seeing these adults have sexual relationships, as soon as seeing men rape women on screen isn't enough, the only thing left is kids. It's all that's left. And
animals,
where are those kids coming from?
And they're arresting many married men, grandparents, many high school kids, because they don't distinguish between adult and child pornography after a time.
And so they're trying to make actresses look either pubescent or even prepubescent to sculpt those brain tastes younger and younger.
That's crazy.
That accounts for the worldwide boom in child pornography, I believe. This consumption of adult pornography on a steady basis, where the brain looks for and needs harder material. Every country should have laws prohibiting the distribution of adult and child pornography.
Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we will continue this one next Saturday. I'll try.
I wanted to see that animated one.
Okay, then we can do that really fast. It's 5 minutes.
It's what?
5 minutes.
Bad lighting, bad acting, bad dialogue, awful music.
Yeah. Want me to wait for you?
Yeah. Just sit down and pretty. But yeah, just knowing what I've known now about like those pure connections. A pure connection can definitely heal you from that.
Yes.
And meaningful, like cuddling.
And knowing who
touch.
you are.
Yeah, you definitely have to know who you are, and it's like there's definitely ways to heal from it. Though.
Yes.
I'm not a lost cause. Okay, go ahead.
All right.
And lots of sex. Pornography can be a very sensitive subject, since there are many different opinions about it. Whether you like it or hate it, we can all agree that watching pornography, like anyone else, has an effect on your brain. But what does watching porn do? And how often do you need to watch for effects to take place? Let's dive into the world of science to explain what pornography does to your brain. Effects of availability. When you think of porn, you might go right to the 70s, with the shag carpets and pizza boy plotlines. But when we think of porn, the word taboo comes to mind. The fact that you've watched porn used to be something that was looked down upon and never spoken of. You know, like saying Voldemort's name. Shoot, I said it. Nowadays, it's much less of an elephant in the room. With the rise of the internet, pornography, like most everything else, became much more available. In his 2002 book, Striptease Culture, Brian McNair states about half of all internet activity is sex-related. Fast forward to 2004, MSNBC and Elle Magazine did a study regarding pornography where, out of 15,246 participants, 75% of the men and 41% of the women stated they had downloaded pornography via the internet. In the 2008 book, The Porning of America, they explain this phenomenon. Once porn became available, on demand, and it didn't risk a computer virus with every third click,
More escalated topics were searched and more people watched porn in general. Less problems, more pleasure. When smartphones came out, teenagers jumped on the bandwagon and boosted the numbers once more. It's a mobile computer that
said
can
it
be
twice
taken
now.
out of adult supervision range. Kind of the perfect storm if you think about it. Effects on the brain. In a study done by researcher and author Barry Gunter, he found that teen males were more interested in more erotic types of pornography and wished they could experience it for real. It was also found that if the participant had a more positive or accepting opinion of pornography, they would be more often aroused when watching. Well, duh. I don't think that we needed a study to tell us that last part. Anyway, Patrick Fagan, PhD, compiled research on the effect of pornography on married individuals with families. Through his research, Fagan found that pornography can change someone's opinion or perception of what sex is. He also noted that males who regularly watched pornography had a higher tolerance for some fun and weird stuff in the bedroom. We see you, Christian Grey. They also may have a higher tolerance for seeing someone as an object rather than a person with value. Effects of addiction. Like anything else, too much of a good thing can have negative effects, so moderation is key. Look, chocolate cake is amazing, but you can't have a slice of decadent, sugary chocolate cake every day. Eventually, that can catch up with our physical health and bodies. The same thing can happen with your mind. In 2015, researchers stated, frequent pornography exposure hasn't been fully studied, so there may be a lot more to the picture than what we know now. In 2011, Donald Hilton Jr. and Clark Watts did a study on pornography addiction. They found that the brain activity produced by cocaine addiction was identical to brain activity from pornography addiction. A similar study was done in 2004 with methamphetamines and had similar findings. So, your aunt with a shopping addiction who's always ordering off Amazon or home shopping networks all at the same time, her brain might look a little something like this too. It's not all bad. We know that there's limited information on the subject, and the majority of it sounds really awful. So, Gary Wilson came out in 2016 to remind us that we can't just say, oh, you watch porn, you see people as objects and are a trash human. No. Pump the brakes, baby cakes. We found that the times we saw more extreme negative effects from pornography overuse, that the same person also showed evidence and indications of mental illness. So there may have been other reasons as to why this person justified negative sexual preferences with pornography. Also, in 2016, another study was done regarding acceptance of pornography in marriages. So for the rest of us, how do you feel about your spouse watching porn? In this study, it was found that the majority of the couples didn't mind their spouse watching porn when they both engaged. Maybe not necessarily in the same room at the same time, but you get it. Specifically, wives in the study felt positively towards pornography, as it's a way for them to gauge sexual satisfaction. You see something you like, you try it out. Might be a good time. Pornography can still be a sensitive subject to some, but to others, it may be a part of their relationship or their self-care routine. No matter what our experience or relationship with porn is, one thing is for certain. If we consume it, it can affect our brain in some way. Have you noticed any changes in yourself after watching porn? Has watching pornography helped your relationship? Let us know in the comments below. As always, keep an eye on side for more Psych2Go content. See you next time. The studies and references used in and to create this video are listed below.
Alright, that was a good little animated ended out.
Yeah, I like that, yeah.
So ladies and gentlemen, put your input in the comments or whatever for next week. Just know I'm going to be back Saturday about 6 o'clock again to do another one. I'm hoping for more people to show up. But don't forget too, Woke Wednesdays. I will be doing another woke video for next Wednesday, so keep a lookout for that.
I have a couple funny ones. So.
Good. Namaste. Hope everybody has a great weekend. And just be yourself.
That was good though.
Yeah, guys, I don't know what got into me.
What?
I was playing